All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Meet Me at Brunch, episode 2. We're here with.
Lachie.
Bronte.
I'm Adam Ward. I started working within the wine industry many moons ago as a maitre d' at a restaurant and got to know a little bit about wine that way. But I started this job 7 years ago. So I've been selling direct to consumer for Brunch and other outfits for 7 years.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very similar. Lucky. I've been doing it for coming up on 9 years now. All I knew about wine was that Shiraz was a red and Sauv Blanc was a white. So my wine knowledge was shocking, but took the sales pretty quickly, which is good. And yeah, same thing. The flexibility and options of this work is fantastic, which is why I've kept doing it for so long. Also having some bosses in the performing arts world, so they get it. Yeah, it's a good muggle job, I call it.
Muggle?
Yeah.
Is that from Harry Potter?
Yeah, it's a magical job.
Yeah.
I'm Bronte. I've only been here for 2 years now, so I'm a freshie compared to you two. Acting background as well, so the three of us are similar in that way. I've done the hospo train and the retail train my entire adult life to support the acting on the side, and this has been like by far the most rewarding in terms of knowledge base and education and interest. There's something special, I think, about the acting background leading into this communication job. Our job is to communicate to the customer what they want or what we have. The skills that we have in listening and reading others comes in handy.
They've only got our voice to go by down the end of the phones. I think an actor has a sort of a step up there with their background in that skill area, that skill set, to be able to master their voice, change the tone. It definitely pays to do a bit of research. It's not just about the product. I suppose that's the most linear and two-dimensional way to look at the job, but you've got to look at it more holistically, really, don't you? At the whole setup of the winery, what their ethos is, what they stand for, and almost like resemble that. I remember in the early days, I don't know if you ever did this, but we used to like get a launch. I used to bring up on the computers the website and just look at, because often they might have like photos of the cellar door and the surroundings, and I just stare at that and then make a phone call and imagine I was there. I wanted to see if it changed how I sounded over the phone, and I reckon it worked, because I reckon I had more success at connecting with the people, with the customer down the end of the phone, with my imagination of that site and the winery's location, and thinking about the vines and where they were placed and the trees around and the views.
Well, on that, I'd always find success with painting a picture for where you drink the wine. So rosé, this wine is perfect for slurping down at a picnic with some friends, or right out on the deck in the middle of the sun in the afternoon, and just that kind of thing. Or maybe red, get some friends over, have a big slow cook going all day, and then crack into this Shiraz, let it sit there for an hour, decanting or aerating, and then drink that with this 18-hour slow cooked beef or pork or whatever it is you want. If you can marry those things, then they can see themselves doing it. Well, we should probably pour the wine, shouldn't we?
Oh, well, this mystery wine that our producer has given us, we have absolutely no idea what it is.
It's wrapped so beautifully. Oh, it's red. Okay, great.
Would you like to show the viewers how well wrapped it is? It's not a hint as to what producer it is.
Well, there is actually the shape of the bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
All we have to go with is that it's a red wine and the shape of the bottle.
I believe they call this particular bottle a Burgundy. Conventionally might have a Pinot Noir in it, from, generally speaking. Can usually sometimes have Grenache in it, GSNs, but more and more I'm finding that
Shiraz.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't have the high shoulders as much anymore, do they?
So what do we do first of all when we're trying? I mean, we always have a look at the colour first of all, see if I can see the stem.
You guys said that commonly in these bottles you'll get a Pinot Noir. I feel like we could be like, not a Pinot.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the Wessex guy telling us, before you even first swirl it, just get your honk in there and give it a sniff, then give it a swirl, and then you will be met with usually even more fruit. So the first thing you get usually is primary fruit, then spice, and then sort of anything secondary after that.
Almost a bit like grungy and dusty and like.
So for me, that's not got anything green on the nose either. There's nothing herbaceous on the nose. It's fruit all the way and spice.
So I'm I'm going, yeah, knock off Cabernet. I don't think it's a Cabernet.
My first instinct was a Shiraz. So yeah, it's possible there's like Shiraz in there given the pepper.
So, I mean, the whole point, apart from us just talking nonsense for an hour here, is to share some ridiculous questions we've been asked our line of work. Once I got asked what I was wearing by an old lady. Or
Was that the day you were wearing your robe?
that was work from home days, and that is perfectly legitimate. It's very cold, and I needed
And customers don't need to know.
Customers don't need to know. I said, a white t-shirt and jeans, and she went, okay, I believe you. And then she bought a 6-pack of wine off me.
No one's ever used that since.
No one's ever used it since. But it's kind of creepy. It's a bit creepy, isn't it? But that's one of the weird questions. But we're talking about wine-specific questions. So what's the wildest question you've had?
I think the question comes at you and it's kind of so shocking sometimes that you then blank and then it's gone from your brain. A common question is, what's your favorite, or do you like this wine? For me, as someone who really does not like Chardonnay, I have to be honest. I have to just be like, look, I'm not a Chardonnay drinker. But when we did this tasting, everyone around me loved it. They raved about it. The honesty that you bring to the conversation, the more trusted you are.
And it's about putting a picture in the consumer's mind. We are calling for the winery, but we are calling for the winery, and we are like a sort of subsidiary, if you will. We're like an add-on. But I'm really keen to talk about, our connection as a direct-to-consumer service, sales service, and working on that connection with wineries to collaborate together more closely and for them to associate us as part of them. When that first seed of point of sale goes down at cellar door, because that's ultimately who we're calling. We're calling the customers that have already been sold to, usually, or had a contact with cellar door at these wineries. If that connection is brought closer and there's more continuity between that, I can see nothing but more success happening here.
You get people you talk to on the phone who relay their experience at the cellar door. It's so important to them. Like, oh, I had this incredible 4 hours session with someone behind the cellar door, like out answering questions, pouring me off the record wines, and they will love that winery forever because that cellar door team member gave them that special experience, paid attention to them, made them feel special. On the other hand, I have an experience with a family member who loved a specific winery, could not wait to get to the cellar door, went to the cellar door. The cellar door manager was such a rude, abrupt, uninspiring person, said, this family member of mine will never buy that wine again. And they had been buying it for a long time, but because I had such a bad experience at the cellar door,
It's true.
that's wiped out.
There's a sour taste in
Yeah.
because of the
They'll never go back.
attraction.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, I feel like sometimes we'll call a customer and they'll be like, oh, does Sarah still work there? I remember when I came 2 years ago, Sarah served me at the cellar door. She was lovely.
There's the new customers that have had that interaction at cellar door that never been spoken to by our agents or haven't yet purchased over the phone. And then there's those ongoing clients that we nurture over time.
They wait for our call.
They've got on
When I'm potentially having the shittest day, like just not feeling great, or had a bit of a shocking start with the kids trying to get them to school, you know what life's like, throwing curveballs at us before we start work. And then, you get in the chair, you do whatever you need to do to start work, and you're just not feeling great. Sometimes I've got some clients that I speak to, and you come off the phone and you feel so incredibly uplifted and buoyant. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why I do this job, because of the connections that you have with other human beings down the phone. When you've been in the job for quite a while, it's about changing your angle. It's not about making sales. I feel like the making sales for the wineries, it almost becomes like a byproduct of the connection with the customer and the human to human touch. And especially in this day and age, we're going forward, everything's done online. AI is going to be taken over before long. Having that personability, taking it back to the OG, one-on-one over the phone. And if you can nurture that relationship, I've got clients asking me out down to dinner. I've got a lovely old fellow that lives down the peninsula. And he always invites me down for dinner, and he's got this wine. He's got hundreds of dozens of wine that he's never going to get through before he carks it. And he's like, come on down and share them with me, or you drive into the city, don't you? I live in Hyatt. Pop in, we'll have a coffee. I know a coffee place over the corner, pop in on your drive in.
So, wild questions. It doesn't have to be particularly wild, but consumers will often ask stuff about. There's the health conscious ones who ask, is it full of sulphur? Is it vegan? Is there any additives? We look at the ones that just care about the alcohol percentage. Or I had one recently who specifically had to know what the sugar percentage of each wine was because his wife's pre-diabetic. So they're very careful about their sugar intake. There'll be some people who are like the vineyard specifics, like what's the soil, what's the drainage, what time of the day were the grapes picked, how is this vintage compared to the last one. There are some wine nerds who absolutely love to know everything about it. There are some people who just want to know the story of the wine. There's like so many different ways that consumers have an into the wine with those kind of questions. Some people will have never heard of it and be like, is it a white or a red?
So I had a guy ask me on the phone the other day, and I've been speaking to him for a few years, what constitutes a good cellaring wine? What are the elements to make up a wine and to make it live longer or last longer in his cellar? And I'm like, wow, okay, this is a really good question. Maybe he's one of these, he wants to know, he wants to learn a little bit more about wine. He's never asked me this before. And so I started to go into, there are so many different elements and facets. It depends on the vintage. Was it a cool year? The longer ripening season, therefore higher acid, usually results in a longer lasting wine. But there are so many other elements involved, usually tannin, oak treatment, as
quality of the grapes,
and the complexity of the grape variety as well. So Cabernet will last longer generally. Yeah.
Rieslings and Semillons change significantly as they age, but they age well.
And there might be a period where it's like, you don't want to touch that. It's not going to taste very nice within that 3-4 year period. Then when it hits 5 to 7, I love the suggestion that we kind of have been in the past encouraged to give customers is like, we'll buy a case of this thing, buy 6 bottles, buy 12 and try one, in 5 years, crack one. And then the year after crack another and see how it's different, and then crack another the next year and kind of see how it develops. I think it's important to do the self kind of discovery stuff because I've worked in it. I like a young Semillon. I want it the year that it's released. Delicious, zippy, like fresh fruit, lemon lime, zesty, yum, yum, yum. It starts to get 5 years, 10 years, 15 years on it, and I can't touch it.
You don't even find it interesting.
I can appreciate it and find it interesting, but I don't want to drink it.
You might find that changes as you get older.
It might.
Yeah, because I found that a lot of the customers that I speak to, I've had conversations with them about how their palate has changed, and they were like, "Now I never liked this." I aged Riesling, and now I'm really enjoying those kind of weird sort of tertiary flavors that you get. That rubber glove that,
or like you're going under general anesthetic or something. What? You've never had that one? That's what it smells like sometimes. That plasticky, oily smell. It's weird.
Do you go under?
I've been under maybe 4 or 5 times an hour. That's not what we're here for, though. You get your older customers who, they've been drinking Barossa Shiraz their whole life, but now they're like, it's just not for me anymore. I had a bloke who has been buying Shiraz off me for 6 years, be like, I'm off it now. I'm moving more towards the Grenache. And I was like, well, I've got a Sangiovese I think you might like. And then he bought that and he's like obsessed.
Yeah, nice. That's lovely, isn't it? When you open up someone that's been drinking wine longer than you've been alive.
But that's the benefit of creating, as you said before, that trust with them. Yeah. Is that you get a profile on what that they like. And you're like, okay, I think based on that, you may like this as it's similar, or you may be like, give this one a try. I'll throw a couple of bottles in place of something else. Give it a try. We'll have a chat about it next time. Tell me what you think.
So what do we think of this wine?
It's very black currant-y.
What I'm getting while you were talking is red fruit. I'm getting black fruit and I'm getting spice.
My very first instinct was a Shiraz, and I reckon it's a little bit heavy for me to be a GSM. I feel like it's more on the Shiraz or Cabernet side of things than a blend with Grenache and Mataro. There's a bit of herbaceousness. Am I wrong?
A little bit at the end, yeah, a little bit of savouriness at the end, but I couldn't smell it on the bouquet to begin with.
Have you ever used a funny question to connect with the customer? Or
all the time?
Yeah,
all the time. So to remember any of them is going to be nigh on impossible for me.
I have one, and it's awful, and it's not about wine. My customer's name was Michael Scott,
Amazing.
and I asked.
Yeah.
I said, "Does anyone have a comment on the fact that you have the same name as Michael Scott from The Office?" And he's like, "Who?"
What?
I swear this dude is in the same demographic as me. I swear you know what I'm talking about. Surely people laugh that your name is Michael Scott. Turns out he's like 20 years older than me.
Sold to a Bruce Wayne once.
Yeah. Look, I ask questions to my customers all the time.
You do.
I like to have a friendly bit of banter with them. The ones that I've spoken to over years, I mean, you know, they love the fact that they've got their wine person that calls them, you know, a couple of times a year. And there is never an obligation to buy from me. I want you to always feel comfortable in saying that you do not want any wine this type. And that is totally fine for you, because for me, it's more about the long game. It's more about, you know, this nurturing this relationship over time.
What I love about the campaigns, particularly new campaigns that we deck, is that we as brokers, as wine sales specialists, get to taste the wines before we sell them. And quite often we'll actually have interaction with the winemakers, and we'll have either an in-person tasting with them or an online tasting, and we'll try the wines. We'll get a bit of background about each wine, how it's made, the flavor profiles and all of that, if it ages well or not, and what specific offers we'll have going forward into that campaign. But like that for me is one of like the most important parts of the setting up the campaign. It's just a really great way for me to learn about the wine, to learn about the winery, to then impart that knowledge on the client base that we've been calling.
Because you sound like you have tasted the wine.
Exactly.
Yeah, rather than reading notes on somebody else that's tasted the wine.
I had a customer ask me yesterday if I preferred the 23 vintage of a Shiraz versus the 22 vintage, and we literally just tasted them 2 days before, and I was like, well, you know what? I like this one more. You know, it's incredibly important to have tasted the wines, just to have a little bit more insight and to have had a conversation with the winemaker.
And when you get a wine you love, you end up selling more of that because they catch on to how excited you were about the wine.
Isn't it nice to be able to have these conversations, these long one-on-ones? I'll rock up at a cellar door, and sometimes it's even just hard to catch the person's eye because sometimes they're short of staff. They've got 2 or 3 people working behind the tasting bench, and big groups come in, and you just feel like, you know, the meager couple that come in might get missed, and you don't get to be able to ask the questions that you might be able to ask, or, you know, you get a certain amount of information, or you get like a, yep. So you're on now you're on the Shiraz now, that the 2017 Shiraz. There's a back vintage, but I'll come back, and you might not see that person again. You can tell they're a little bit flustered sometimes, and they'll reel off brilliant, by the way, the tasting notes for this wine that they've got it in there memorized, and then they'll go over and be serving a Riesling over here and know the tasting notes, not taking anything away from the wine knowledge and the execution of it. It's just bloody busy sometimes. So in order for us to be able to have that one-on-one, we can do everything that we've learned from the winemaker and the wine tasting that we did a few moments before, and actually put it into practice with that. And then they feel this is the service I was sort of looking for, where I get to have that one-on-one now. I get to listen, to hear about how this wine was made, how long it can cellar, and how it tastes, essentially, and whether or not I'm going to like it, and how much I probably are going to buy of this now.
When you've got that conversation going, you can be like, oh, you like Shiraz? What else do you like? Have you heard of this? I've never heard of this wine. Talk to me more about this wine. Oh, this wine relates to something I know you like in this way, but it's also interesting in this way. I would have, for example, like a Barbera or a Sangiovese, perfect with a red sauce pizza or pasta.
Food matching is great over the phone because you instantly put an image in someone's mind. Who doesn't love food?
When a winery releases a completely new wine, there's a really wonderful opportunity to advertise that new wine, to talk about it. Like, for example, we had recently a skin contact Pinot Grigio from a winery that has a Pinot Grigio with a really big following. And so then we had this skin contact one to talk about, completely new product. We'd all tried it. And then we got to talk about that with customers. And it was an amazing response to a new wine that a lot of these customers hadn't tried, but because they trust that they love the wines from the winery, or they've had wines sent to them before from us. They trusted us. They've had a relationship or whatever it might be. Like there's certain situations where a phone campaign could be a perfect opportunity to get a new release out, to get a wine out that's just won awards at different competitions. But to utilize those moments or a new release or a museum release, something like that, those are really great opportunities to then to reach your customer. Certain things, certain little ins that we can use that help get your wine out to your consumers.
We'll get them excited about them.
Yeah, and get them excited about the wine. There's always little ins that you can use to make your product more exciting.
Do you think you can tell the difference in customers when we first call on a new campaign connection that is made at cellar door with those customers?
So much. There was a winery we started last year for the first time, Yarra Yering, and the connection those people had to the winery. They were excited to receive the calls. They were knowledgeable about the wines. They knew exactly what they wanted, but they were also open to hearing about awards or what was doing well or what the winemaker was excited about. I spoke to some customers who had been buying since like the 80s or 90s. They bought the same wine every year and had been aging it since then. And because they had such a good experience and the wines were very, very good, consistently very good, they were happy and like it was their favorite winery. They'd be like, don't buy any other wines now. I only buy these ones going forward. The engagement was through the roof.
There's some really beautiful connections some customers have with small wineries. We started one last year that's a winery based in Bendigo. So not a cellar door necessarily that you'll visit all the time. It's not in a main thoroughfare or it's not in a massive winery region where you're jumping from winery to winery to winery. But they had a really beautiful customer base. Everyone knew the names of the two winemakers. We met them as well. They came in for a tasting. They were beautiful. And you could tell that when we started calling the customers, they were so excited to hear from the winery because they hadn't been able to get out to Bendigo to get some more wines, or they wanted to hear how, Ken and E were going, or like what their favorite wine was that they'd just released. There's some wineries like that where you have to know the winery to kind of get onto the list, and like you have to kind of have actively seeked it out, searched for it, tasted the wines, experienced the cellar door. And so then when you get that call with the offers, this is something that you've really put energy into finding and then receiving that energy back. That helps build that connection. And then you end up having conversations with people where they're like, oh yeah, send me 2 dozen of that wine. I can't wait to come out and visit again.
Wineries are very protective of their baby. You put your blood, sweat and tears into this.
And often your family name to it as well.
Family name. Stakes are raised. We're talking about people's livelihoods here, families. We, I think, need to build trust as well in our partnerships and future partnerships. And we will be there for you. We'll help you out of scrapes. Do you remember that winery, not mentioning names, over in the Hunter Valley during COVID? They had to raid their warehouse of a lot of their backstock museum wines, which they knew they had to do what they had to do to get income to come back in. And they collaborated with us to contact their customers and sell these amazing wines. They were sitting on so much amazing stock. And the current vintage was it going to be great? No, it wasn't great because of
2020 fires. The triple attack of international sales down, cellar door traffic down, restaurant traffic down. We were able to help them through that.
We have been there and helped wineries out because we're not just in it for the quick buck. We're quite passionate about that, actually. I love the fact that I collaborate with these incredible wineries and these incredible talented winemakers and hospo staffs there and the viticulturalists that work there. My hope is that we will build trust with wineries as we are with customers, because it works both ways.
Should we try and guess what this wine is? All right, so
Victoria, do we think
I reckon
Shiraz?
I think Shiraz.
Not Cabernet? I think Shiraz. It's too peppery for a Cabernet.
Yeah. I think you were bang on with it being out in the West. I'm going to actually take a punt and say I think it's Blue Pyrenees.
Shall we reveal? Okay.
You're
going to see how I unwrap presents.
It's like best size.
It's the best.
We're all wrong. No, it's Mount Evoca.
We're in the right region.
Pyrenees. It's It's organic. Did we all taste the organic? I tasted the organic.
Like pesticides.
I know this is super disgusting, but I did notice quite a bit of sediment.
Oh.
There we go. And 2021.
Do you feel like it's your birthday unwrapping that? Was it nice?
I was a little bit excited about unwrapping it, and then a little bit stressed when it was all stuck to the bottle.
Well, you know what we didn't do? We didn't sort of have a punt at the vintage. I think we should do that next time.
Yes. That brings us to the end of the episode. So if any of our lovely listeners have any questions of their own for us, feel free to reach out. You can find all of the information in the show notes. We're always happy to chat to wineries or people about wines. Please reach out.
And if you like the sound of what we do, then we're here to help.
I think the next episode is about building a website that helps you get found. So
Cheers, team.
cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
That's bad luck to do it with an empty
There's
glass.
still liquid in there.
It's your I fell for that trick.
Oh my goodness. It's because I've talked about this. I have a deviated septum, so I can't actually breathe through one of my nostrils. So I do a little bit tilt, get an acute nostril.
That's the A-Ward approach.